In this recording, I'm going to be talking about subtotals. Subtotals are used to create calculations automatically within Excel, and it's a it's a feature that some people have a little bit of trouble with, so I want to make sure we cover it. So it's really recording number 2 for Unit 3. If you weren't following along before, I was using the Unit 3 sample, but I saved it as a Unit 3 sample done. And I have that open here, so I'm going to open it again. And what we did in that one was, first of all, converted this to a table. So if you're following along for the first time and you didn't do it before, you'll need to convert this to a table by clicking inside the data that you see in the faculty data, and then inserting a table. We already have a total row down here. One of the first things I'm going to do here is remove that, so you don't need to worry about creating the total row, but make sure you do have a data table. In one of the previous units, you learned how to create another worksheet by copying the existing one. I want to make a copy of this faculty worksheet so that we still have the major data without the changes. So I'm going to copy that by simply control dragging. I'm holding control key down and then dragging that worksheet over here. Makes a copy of it that looks exactly like that one. The extra window that pops up is because I'm recording this on a Mac, and so it does a few extra little things, but that's not getting in our way here. Control drag. I want to rename this, so I'm going to double click it and call it Subtotals. Before I do my subtotals, I want to remove my split screens. If you have the split screen, remember the easiest way to remove it, I think, simply point to the split and double click. That removes it. You can also go to the Table Tools Design tab, and that's not where we did it, excuse me. It was View, and turn off the split by clicking this button. It was on before. I also don't need the total. So to get rid of the total, I'm going back to the Table Tools Design tab, and I'm going to uncheck this total button. That was part of what we did in the first recording. And so now I basically have the same faculty data page, but without its total and without the split. In order to do subtotals, the topic of this lesson, I first need to convert my table back into a range of cells. You cannot do subtotals on a table. So that's a bit of a misnomer in this unit. The unit talks a lot about tables, and then they switch back and do subtables a little bit, and the two are not related, or subtotals, excuse me, and they're not related. So the first thing I want to do in my subtotals tab here is convert my table back into a range. I click inside of my table, go to the Design tab up here, and then say convert this back to a range. However, I'm going to show you what happens if you do this while the table is still formatted. I'm going to convert it. You sure? Yes. And now notice that the Table Tools Design tab is gone and that the header arrows are gone. So you can tell this is no longer a table, but it retains its formatting. Watch what happens. Excuse me. Watch what happens if I now sort this by gender, by sex, and drop that down to sort A to Z. And notice what happens to my shading. The alternate rows, because it's no longer a table, the alternate rows no longer alternate. They get all mixed up, and it really clutters up and makes a table hard to read. Somebody might look at this and say, why are those shaded a different color? So what I'm going to do now is undo a couple of times. There's my undo of my sort, and there's my undo that made a range. And before I convert this to a range, I'm going to unformat it so I don't get all that goofy alternate line stuff coming in here. A couple ways to do it. You can go to Table Tools Design, turn off the banded rows, and that would solve the problem. What I like to do is just turn it back into black and white by saying that I want this no style format. Now it's just plain black on white again as it was when we started, and then convert it to a range. And now when I format it, there's no color shading to confuse people. On to subtotals. If I want to create subtotals, the first step that everybody seems to miss is you must sort your data by what you want subtotals for. In this case, I want subtotals by department. I want to know how much money does each department pay out in salaries. So I need to sort by that. I also want to know within the department how much the average salary is for each rank. So I need to sort by that. So the first thing I'm going to do is sort my data by department and then by rank. When you do subtotals, you must sort by what you want subtotals on first. You can't do that after the fact, so don't forget that crucial step. My cursor is inside my what used to be a table, now it's a range. Excel is smart enough when I sort, it sees that my headers have a different appearance. And so when I choose custom sort, it automatically selects my data. In the old versions of Excel, you would have to select this range. Notice that my entire, what I would call the table, has been selected without its headers. So this is what's going to be sorted. Excel 2013, that happens automatically as long as these are formatted differently. If they're not formatted differently, sometimes it can't figure it out. Also, because they're formatted differently, the header values show up here in my sort by box. I want to sort by department, A to Z. And then I want to add another sort level and sort by rank. However, I don't want to sort the ranks A to Z because the A to Z sorting is not appropriate. The way these are sorted the way these should be sorted is by the rank value instead of the rank name. So I'm going to create a brand new custom list. We did this in one of the earlier recordings where we created the Stevens Point campuses, or pardon me, the mid-state campuses, some names. I'm going to now create a new list. And in these entries, I'm going to list the ranks of the faculty members in the appropriate order. The lowest ranking people are instructors. Then come the assistant professors, then the associate professors, and finally the full professors. So I'm going to add that as a custom list. Click on OK, and it's immediately inserted into my order. So now when I sort these, I'm going to get them sorted first by department, and then within departments by the ranks of the professors from lowest to highest. And again, I could flip this around as well. I'm going to stick with lowest to highest. So there's my sort, all the accounting people, then the instructors, the assistants, the associates, and the fulls, and then the finance people, and then the management people. So that worked quite well. But that's the first step. You don't have to do custom sorting like I just did. It's just another example. But the first step in creating subtotals is to sort by what you want subtotals for. Now that you've got these sorted appropriately, you can go to the Data tab and Subtotal. So I'm going to create a subtotal. When you create a subtotal, the first thing the subtotal dialog box wants to know is for each change. This is why we need to sort. For each change in department, whenever the department changes, calculate the total salary. So let's see what that does. Notice I changed this by the first sort field. Okay. And now if I scroll through this, I get some outlining here we'll talk about in a minute, but here's all my accounting data. And notice as soon as accounting changes to finance, they have to be sorted, otherwise this gives you weird answers. I get the total for accounting. Then when I scroll down after we change from finance to management, I get the total for finance. Finally, I get the management total, and then automatically in subtotaling, you get a grand total. Now the next thing I want to know is what's the average salary by rank within each department. So I'm going to create another subtotal. You can create multiple subtotals all in the same sheet like this. In this case, whenever the rank changes, I want to calculate the average salary, but here's an important step. I'm adding a subtotal. I don't want my totals for the departments to go away, so you have to remember to turn this thing off. The replace current totals. Normally or often you'll want to create a totals for some, look at that and say that's good, and then calculate the average, say that's good, but not necessarily all at the same time. In this case, I want to see the totals for each department, but I want to see the average for each rank. So I'm going to click on OK. And now here's the average salary for instructors, $36,000. Assistant professors, $45,000. Fellowship professors, just a smidge more. And finally, full professors, $54,000. As I scroll, I get the accounting total salary. Notice that's not the average for accounting instructors, that's the total. So I've mixed and matched here. I'm getting subtotals all over the place. Over here on the left-hand side, when you use subtotals, you get outlining. So if you wanted to, you could hide some of the details. I'm going to go to level 2 outlining. And notice now all I see is the accounting total, the finance total, and the management total. I also see the grand average and I see the grand total. If I want to, for any one of these, I can expand them. So I'm going to expand finance and see the details that are inside. In here we have collapse buttons, so if I want to, I can just get the averages for each of my 4 types of professors. Okay. So using these expand and collapse buttons, you can control how much data you see. Go to level 3, you can see even more information, which includes our averages. And finally, level 4 is back to all the details again. And anytime you want to, you can click the collapse and expand buttons. So that's subtotals. I'm going to say it one more time because it's amazing how often people forget. In order to use subtotals, you first have to sort. I wanted a total for each department, so I needed to sort by departments. Within departments, I wanted the average salary for each rank, so I had to sort by rank. Now in this case I created a custom sort. I didn't necessarily need to do that, but I wanted these in the appropriate order: instructor, assistant, associate, and full. So that's how you do subtotals. Once you have these subtotals, now you can use the data in different ways: hide it, show it, and maybe even graph it. I hope that helps you solve your subtotaling problems.